Good morning. I'd like to call this commission meeting of Ellis County Commission to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Would the clerk please call roll, please?
Commissioner Neil Younger.
Present.
Chair Nathan Liker.
Here.
Commissioner Michael Burgess.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Are there any changes to the order of business?
No, it's on there, but I would like to call an executive session after the, at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Next, the prior minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look through both the minutes from March 19th and March 25th, the canvas?
Yep. Everything looked good.
Look good.
Okay. The consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to read through that?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through G.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. At this time, are there issues from any persons not on the order of business? See none, we'll move on. Okay. First, we have the introduction of new employees. Jennifer?
Good morning, Jennifer Taylor, Ellis County HR. And since our last introduction last month, we've had 4 new employees that have started and multiple starting in the next week. So I'm going to allow the 2 new employees be introduced now.
Good morning, Commission. Kim Real, Ellis County Health Department. I have with me today our newest hire, Ms. Shannon Pierce, and I want to say thank you for allowing me to be proactive in getting her hired after some of the events that have taken place over the last couple of weeks. So we welcome Shannon to our team.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Vern Reuter, Ellis County Treasurer. Today I have Danae Wellbrock. She just started yesterday. She's joining our staff as Motor Vehicle Clerk 1. So we're starting her training today, and hopefully she stays with us for a long time.
Good deal. Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we'll have the Humane Society of the High Plains update.
We're here just to give kind of an update of what's been going on at the shelter. You'll notice on the first page of the handout, I think we only maybe don't have it. Yeah, we do. It starts with just the average costs to hold stray dogs and cats. We've had 77 stray dogs, 23 stray cats came through our doors 1/1/23 to 12/31/23. 20% were picked up by their owners. Without the cost of veterinary care for animals that are in need of immediate veterinary care, the shelter pays approximately $87.78 to give the most basic care for these 77 dogs and $26.91 for the stray cats. The bottom of that page, we were notified last week from the state of Kansas that our holding period, which is a typical 3 days, we generally hold 4 days. Since we are only open Tuesday through Friday, we can no longer count Saturday and Sunday, even though that is a business day for us. So we're going to have costs increase for holding because we'll need to hold more days since we can't count Saturday and Sunday or any holiday that is regulated by the state. So we'll be holding these animals probably at least up to 6 or 7 days before we can release them. The second page, we wanted to actually give you a couple of pictures because pictures speak louder than words. So this first little guy, Crash, he was a 3-month-old domestic short-haired kitten. He was picked up in Ellis County along the bypass. He had a broken pelvis. And when we get an animal like this, the state does require immediate attention. So his bill at the vet was $180 plus the time that he spent with us. Lucky at the bottom, she was dumped in a box right at the end of our driveway. She was wearing a child's onesie with a bandage around her rear left leg with a really bad amputation. We don't know where the amputation was done, maybe at home. It was very infected. Dr. Meyer determined that the rest of the leg needed to be amputated. Radiograph, amputation, anti-inflammatory, antibiotics. These are the types of things that we are required to do by the state of Kansas. The third page is Birdie. This was a Greyhound Border Collie mix picked up in Ellis County along Golf Course Road. Birdie was in the middle of the road, lethargic, malnourished, covered in gashes. The vet felt she was probably used for coyote hunting and left the pack and probably got attacked by a coyote, and the people that had her just left her. She needed hydrotherapy to clean her wounds, B12 injections, antibiotics, heartworm tests, urgent care need was given at Hayes Veterinary Hospital. It costs HSHP approximately $1,253 to care for just these 3 strays. So, and all 3 of these animals, after their veterinary care, were adopted into great homes. So we just wanted to give you kind of an overlook of just these 3 animals, but of course there have been many more. We have noticed a increase in animals being dumped in the county. They generally will go close to a farmhouse and just throw them in a ditch or whatever the case may be. Some are not in need of veterinary care, some are. I believe this probably has to do with the cost. When people can't afford to take care of them, they just dump them. They don't bring them to the shelter because there's no fee for county animals, so sometimes I don't understand that, but there is a fee if you're surrendering an animal, and I think if people don't have that surrender fee, which is very minimal, they just take them to the country and dump them because they know that there's no fee to do that. So does anyone have any questions?
Let's just have a nice comment that you brought that to us to show that. That's
Yeah, I wanted to bring a couple of pictures because these are just 3 cases. The other day we got in a Pyrenees, the big white dogs, and we went to have her spayed, and because the person said, well, she might be pregnant. Well, sure enough, she has 10 plus puppies, and they were too late to do the surgery, so we're going to have 10 plus giant Pyrenees puppies, and we've already had kittens born, 2 litters, just in the past couple of weeks, so 'tis the season. So just to kind of update you, we appreciate your time and we appreciate your support.
Well, thank you for coming and sharing this today.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the St. John's project update.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for allowing us to be here to give you an update. My name is Jeff Pfeiffer. I'm the chairman of the Victoria Community Coalition, and Marilyn Brown is the treasurer. And on behalf of the Victoria Community Coalition, just want to thank you for your support so far. I did hand out a plan that shows the master plan of this 40,000 square foot facility. It's been about 2 years since we came before you the first time just to say we're going to make some progress on this. and we're going to need all the help we can get. And you guys have offered us numerous different avenues. Grow Hayes has supported us, consulting. The landfill waiver of the fees has helped us. We have been able to raise over $3 million for Phase 1. And if you look at the first plan I have, and I apologize for not getting this sooner to you, Darren, so we could put it up on the screen or something, but the north side, the upper side of the page, where it says Phase 1 residential, that is what we're working on right now. We've got the plans done. We have got it out for pricing, final pricing. And in the meantime, we have started demolition with volunteer work. So we have taken some dumpsters out to the landfill and utilized that donation on the county's behalf, or from the county. Like I said, we've raised over $3 million so far for those 12 apartments in Phase 1 residential. We're still a few $100,000 short, so we're still trying to save and cut any way we can. We felt like we've saved probably about $100,000 to $150,000 by doing the demo ourselves. We've got, Frank Drawling, Jim Drawling, Sam Brown, Marilyn, Brenda Drawling, and hundreds of volunteers. We've spent thousands of hours in there just demoing. So luckily, it's going to help us by over $100,000. Some of the money goes to put a new roof on the entire building. So while we're focusing on Phase 1, which is about 13,000 square feet, we are getting a new roof for the entire building so we can secure that while we make plans and raise money for the future phases. The other way that you've helped us is that you're helping the Ellis County Historical Society. And they have signed a long-term lease with us for 9,000 square feet on the south side of the building. So we've got something going on in the north quarter and the south quarter. And over the coming months, we're going to figure out what to do with the middle half. And we've already had a community forum last week that we got community input on what to do, what kind of uses the community would like to see in there. So we feel like we've got a strong idea of what's next also. We do invite each and every one of you to a groundbreaking ceremony that we want to celebrate this progress on April 7th. That's on a Sunday at 11:30. I hope you can come to 701 7th Street in Victoria and join us. And the last thing I would like to ask is if the county would consider, in another way to help meet our budget, helping us with some grading. We've got a new parking lot we're putting on the north side of the building. That's a new entrance to the apartments. And I think it's about 1,000 cubic yards cut and moved, cut and filled. Obviously, we need to strip the topsoil, but we've already had a grading contractor donate their services and removed 11 pine trees and 1 silver maple to make room for the parking lot. And I just didn't know if the county would consider coming in and helping us do some grading in that area to, again, help us save some money to meet our budget.
As when we first started this project, I had already mentioned that, and I hate to say the I word, but the county, and that was okay, that we were going to help with the dirt work. So I committed ourselves to that back when the project was started. So if the other two commissioners are good with that, I think we should honor that, because I did come to one of the first meetings and committed to help to do that for you guys.
That would be awesome.
What kind of timeline are you looking at this?
Good question. We've got some flexibility because there's so many moving parts. We do have the trees cut, so it's cleared. So we're ready when you are, so to speak. But it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. I mean, we've got a lot of work to do. So we would work with you. I don't want to say in 2 weeks or 2 months, because hopefully we can work with your schedule. But yeah, 2 months, within 2 months is not a problem. I don't know how tight that is for you guys.
Oh, we'll just pull him up. Brendan,
That would be,
could you step up here? We're involving your department, and I want your input on it.
I'll even give you the plan. So it's, I'm guessing this is about 1,000 cubic yards, and we just have to cut here and fill there.
Okay, it's gonna be a balanced project, no material needed, or,
We're gonna make it balanced.
okay. I can't give you a time frame of what it'll take us to do, just seeing the plans now, but if commission approves it, we'll make a way to make it done.
and if you can work with Jeff on it, like I said, it's not, the end of the world. If we got 2-3 months, whatever, then if it rains somewhere else, and we can, but that's going to be up to Brandon, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting into the wet time of year where when it gets dry, we're pulling more shoulders on the edge of the road before we start mowing. We can make things work to help each other out, just
Okay.
like we're doing with the other cities, so.
All right.
But I'll get in touch with you after this if that works.
Hang on to that,
That
please.
would help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, we'll kind of defer to Brendan on scheduling and helping with that. But I would be okay with continuing down that path. Mr.
Yeah,
Bridges?
I think it's fine. I think it's a good project, and want to see us get it completed and be a part of it as much as we can, so I think it's worthwhile.
Well, thank you very much. It's gonna happen. It's pretty exciting.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have Western Kansas advocacy?
Did I miss that?
Yep, yeah.
I'm sorry. I scrolled right on past it. Western Kansas Child Advocacy. Thank you for mentioning that.
Are they here? I thought they may not be.
I didn't see Dawn.
Yeah,
You here?
okay.
Okay.
You did skip
And it worked
Okay.
out.
Well, I didn't catch it. He didn't catch my eye. So, okay. Next, emergency preparedness activities. Lyle.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lyle Pantel, Emergency Manager and Assistant Fire Chief. This morning, just giving you a brief update on preparedness activities throughout the county. Done a couple this year already. That would be a tabletop exercise with the Health Department, which is meeting their requirements in the FEP grant program. We also hosted a training from the Kansas Pipeline Association, which I believe Commissioner Younger was there at. And we also had a brief tabletop exercise, kind of drill through there and delineate some of our response to a proposed pipeline event within Ellis County. Going through the rest of the year, I got an additional 6 preparedness activities planned for us. Another tabletop exercise. We are going to be hosting the executive team meeting at the Emergency Services Building next month, which will have the Emergency Operations Center stood up, and it will show our personnel and our staff maybe what a little bit more of their role might be in the event that we need to open up that, and how they can support us and whatever the incident may be. The regional airport and the Buckeye Wind Farm are annual preparedness drills that we do. We try and rotate what the event is, but we still go out and participate with each of those. The airport is mandated by the FAA to hold a tabletop drill 2 out of 3 years, and then a full-scale exercise every 3rd year. So those, that's what that one is. The wind farm, we do try and rotate what we do, whether it be a fire or a medical emergency or lots of different things of that nature. And lastly, we do an integrated preparedness planning workshop. I mix the 2 Ps up a lot, which helps identify where our shortcomings may be within the county and what we can try and do to mitigate those or shrink those gaps.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Well, I appreciate you updating us on some of that stuff. Is there anything, I mean, April's Emergency Preparedness Month, anything that you want to let people who are here or those listening may need to know?
Yeah, as far as emergency management goes, always try and be on the forefront of preparedness rather than being reactive, be proactive. Have those, we'll say go bag, but that's what they're actually called, is a go bag ready. So you can, in the event that something happens, you either are prepared to host yourself for 3 days and take care of yourself, or you're ready to get out of your house and find a different shelter for the time being. We do have severe weather typically in April, so that would be a good time to maybe practice those plans, even if we don't have something that would cause you to have to leave your home or shelter. Just like you did in school, practice those plans, because if you don't practice them, they won't go as smoothly as you think they're going to go should you need to actually put them into place.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Commissioner?
No, thanks, Lyle.
Thanks for the update.
Absolutely.
Okay. Next, we have Lyle with Purple Wave auction results.
Yeah, so back in January, the commission approved the sale of equipment, county-owned equipment, mostly vehicles, to be sold on Purple Wave to offset the lease agreement through Enterprise Fleet Program. The sale concluded February 20th, bringing in just shy of $250,000, which was, I think, a pretty good amount. I know we were expecting a little bit more on some of the equipment, but that's really dependent on who's seeing and who's bidding on the equipment when it's up for sale. Some of it will go to the solid waste, and the rest will be going into the general fund.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
No.
Nothing for me.
Okay. Great. Sounds good. Thank you, Lyle. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have,
We missed a new hire.
oh, yeah. Oh, that's fine.
Good morning, Commissioners. Robert Anderson, Ellis County Attorney. Nice to see you all again. We do have two new hires in my office. One of them, Reagan Baskell, we chose for her not to come this morning because she's assigned in a particular way in our office, where this morning was her busiest day of a 2-week period. This is my other new hire, Luann Brungart. You can introduce yourself if you want, but originally from Victoria, moved off to Texas for quite a while, and is now back with us here in Ellis County.
Great. Well, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay. Did I miss anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Next, we will move on to the compensation study implementation, budget adjustments, and elected officials.
Good morning, Commissioners. Darren Myers, County Administrator. Your next item for discussion is the final steps for the compensation study that was been worked on for the last 6 or so months with Ellis County and the Arnold Group. Several things have been done in the past month, as the Commission has known. Specifically to your part of this is meeting with the Arnold Group in executive session to go over the plan and how it was implemented, how it was completed over those several months. And then the week after that, in last month, the last meeting of last month, we looked at the compensation policy and the pay grades and everything, and some of the job descriptions to get approved. Unfortunately, the 487 pages of job descriptions weren't all there, so you have another 200 pages today to review as well. But throughout the process, maybe just for a quick overcap, the study itself wasn't necessarily a study of how Ellis County compares to Russell County or Finney County, Barton County. The study itself was a in-depth look at job descriptions themselves and not necessarily employees. So taking the bias completely out of who the employee is within that position or how long they've been here, the initial part of the study was to look at the job descriptions, and I'm very thankful to all the staff and the elected officials to work through those job descriptions and get you the 500-600 pages that you have now seen, and I'm sure read every single page of them. But heavy work was done by our department heads and elected officials to get to that, and we reviewed them and went back, did several updates throughout the process. After those job descriptions were done, they were all sent to the Arnold Group to look at those job descriptions, and they were then reviewed and graded to be put on a pay scale to have grades assigned, not dollar figures or anything, specifically just looking at where they would fall onto, I believe, 18 different grades within the scale. And they were reviewed based on knowledge, supervisory control, guidelines, complexity of the job, scope and effect, the personal contacts, the purpose of those contacts, physical demands, and the work environment. So those job descriptions, like I say, were non-biased, not looking at how good or bad an employee is or how long they necessarily been with the county at that point. It's just looking at those 9 compensatory factors and putting them on a scale. So for instance, the knowledge piece. The county attorney has to have a doctorate's degree to become a lawyer. That takes a lot more general knowledge and college education and requirements to pass the bar to hold that position than, say, an EMT that has to go through a 6-8 month course to maintain their certification. Work environment would also be different for an attorney working in a courtroom environment rather than an EMT who's out being exposed to bodily fluids, or a firefighter out working in a structure fire. So all those different factors are taken into place to put job descriptions on a certain pay grade. At that point, the next step was to look and review of how everybody was placed on those, and department heads and elected officials got back together to look at the hierarchy of their jobs descriptions and their pay grades to ensure that everything flowed correctly. For instance, the director of a department was usually the highest paid, and then you start looking at your number 2 and then the different departments or positions within your department to make sure that they were ranked appropriately throughout each department in the county. That was then taken back with all of that, and that was when the market analysis starts looking for the actual wage on how to build your pay scale out. So they look at several positions throughout the county, exempt and non-exempt, lower paying and higher paying, to figure out what the midpoints are for those positions. And then the compensation policy was drafted, which the commission approved last month, to determine how many steps and how much of a range there are within each step. Typically, like for the first, the lower paying positions, the 10 through 15 pay grades, there's 20 steps. And the next set for usually the mid-level employees and managers that are either exempt or non-exempt are 25 steps, and then the exempt positions or the bottom 3 positions on the pay scale, all exempt, are I think 16 steps. So those were built out, and then we started looking then at the point of the individual itself. And once again, what this study is not was anything that is in regards to merit or how good or bad an employee is. It's only looking at how long the employee has been with the county and their employment journey with the county. So for instance, if this job description A was assigned to pay grade 30, the personnel information was then shared with the Arnold Group in regards to their start date, and looked at their progressions through the county, whether they were in the same position their whole entire, or if they were promoted through several different positions throughout their career, and they were then placed on a scale step on that pay grade. So for instance, an employee with 11 years of service is placed on step 11 if they were in that, just say that same department, same experience, same relevant job experience, whereas an employee with 5 years would be more along the lines of step 5 based on when they were hired and et cetera, and promotions. So at that point, that's when we started reviewing again with department heads to ensure we had all of the pay grades that were already previously approved by the department heads, and where all the employees fell on the scale, which were then at this point, because the compensation study was approved, we had the steps. So that was essentially within the last month, we can start looking to make sure everybody lined up correctly, making sure that a 8-year employee wasn't being paid more than a 11-year employee or paying the same amount. And that was one of the biggest problems this compensation study was to fix the compression within our pay throughout the entire county. I would say probably not every single department, but most departments had some, if not quite a bit of compression where there was pay that was not appropriate for the amount of services they had been with the county. And like I say, the previous policy as well as what this policy did not look at the individual employee on how well or not well, I guess, they do their job. It was based on the scientific method to place somebody on a pay scale and then looking at their years of service on where they fit on the step. And essentially that is where we've came to today. So the couple items that are on your agenda is the approval of the final job descriptions that we either had not had time to finish by the last meeting or some updates to those job descriptions, the actual pay scale itself. And one thing I didn't fail to mention on the pay scale, since I didn't really talk about that, it's a typical pay scale. You have grades and you have steps. But if you see, we have like a pay grade 30 and then a 30C and a 30S and then a 30F. The 30C, I'm not sure if those are exactly 30s or if they're 31, 32, but the C modifier, which we've talked about these before, but just to clarify, the C modifiers are only eligible for the employees that are in the jail that are part of the corrections staff. The S is for sworn officers, so these are deputies within the sheriff's office that are actually sworn law enforcement officers. F is actually for EMS, but we couldn't use E in the actual spreadsheet due to formatting errors. But E is for EMS because of their positions and their work environment or their working hours on their, because they work 24-hour shifts. And I believe the last one was L, is a different modifier to place the attorney's office into a different scale as well. That is contingent upon what attorneys are to be compensated for differently than the others in that same step. And then the last piece to this is, well, two more, I guess. I didn't mention COLA. This study is also not to look at COLA. This was to create to evaluate the job descriptions and place employees on a new scale at the appropriate steps. The goal was not to to ensure everybody got a COLA. I'm not saying that could be done, but if we did, COLA for 2024 is 3.2%. If we adjusted this scale, so that to ensure everybody were to get a COLA raise, we'd have to adjust the new scale by 3.2%, which would essentially cost about $330,000 more dollars, and also push back when this could be implemented by roughly 5 pay periods, which would be into the summer months. And then the COLA applies to several specific employees within the pay scale or within the county because they're not actually on a pay scale, and that includes the court's office. They have the 5 lawyers that they contract with to run their cases. So their COLA adjustment there, because they're not on the pay scale, they were not part of the study, their adjustment was 3.2%. And the fairground manager was the other. They're we're not part of the study and are paid as an independent contractor. And looking back and visiting with them and the amount of the work that we've done, I know we've talked about this previously, of the issues out there at the fairgrounds and how well of a job our fair board does as well as our manager, but they have not had any adjustments in their pay for more than 10 years. So I took that into account, and I'm proposing that we increase their amount for those 10 years of COLA adjustments to get them to something a little bit more equitable for them to continue to help do the great job that they do out there for us. And I believe that changes from about $350 to $480 per pay period. So a very insignificant part of the overall the budget process here. Then the last step to discuss, if the commission wants to continue, is Resolution 24-07, which is how the elected officials in Ellis County are paid, to approve any pay adjustments for the elected officials. That has to be done by resolution by the county commission for all the elected officials. And besides the county commissioners, all elected officials that were part of this process were also evaluated on a fair and equal basis compared to every other employee in the county. The biggest difference is we do not have job descriptions for elected officials because what they do, what they're allowed to do, what they're required to do, et cetera, Bobby can explain that very well, is all dictated by state statute. So that was how it was done on the basis of what the law says that they should and can do. And then they were evaluated and placed on the scales at that point. So to adjust the scales for the elected officials, that resolution was drafted to place them on the steps and the grade and the step that the Arnold Group had proposed. I guess before I turn it over, I said it once, but a lot of work was done with staff on this. I appreciate their help, their input. They did a lot of time in looking at the job descriptions. Carissa and Jennifer and HR did a lot of heavy lifting as well to make sure that the communications with the staff done to get all the information. So I appreciate their help, as well as the Arnold Group for probably my 10,000 plus questions over the last 6 months to try to make this an appropriate and fair and equitable as we can across all the employees in the county to get to the solution that we're at today. I do know Braden Park was here. There he is. I don't know if the commission would like to hear their perspective, but Braden is the chair of the Wage and Benefits Committee, and I think he might have had something prepared, or doesn't want to speak if he doesn't have to. I don't know, but I just wanted to recognize him for here.
Would you come up?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Braden Park. I'm Deputy with the Sheriff's Office, also the Chair of the Wage and Benefits Committee. Obviously, we did not have much to do with this wage study. It's mostly done by the Arnold Group, and as well as the department heads, elected officials, Darren and HR. So just want to thank them for everything they've done. I know they've put in a lot of work and time into this, and we are supportive of everything that comes with the study.
Was the group unanimously supportive of this?
Yes, I
all
believe so.
presented? Okay. Was there anything that the group suggested that may or may not have been changed throughout the process?
We've only had 2 meetings reference the wage study, and it was just mostly giving updates on where we're at in the process. So again, we didn't really have much say on what was happening with it, but we're all supportive of it.
Okay.
I will also, we're meeting after this, depending on the outcome of this, but we are meeting afterwards, I think right after the meeting, and going over the next step of how, if approved, how to help have the Wage and Benefit Committee help implement the information to be shared with all the employees to make sure, from their perspective, that the employees get the information. And, it's going to take a little bit to get out 209 notices, but have their input on getting that with HR to share that information as well.
Okay. Any comments? Questions, gentlemen?
No, not for Brandon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Braden. Any comments or discussions on what Darren has presented thus far?
I guess I just have one thing that through this 6-month study, when you had executive meetings, at that time, I know probably the first month or 2 was probably pretty over the head stuff, but at that time, everybody understood after going through all the discussion with you. I would say that varies. Okay.
We had some of the staff that maybe, and I visited with a lot of them yesterday. We had meetings up to last week, and I would say that would vary as to the understanding of how the executive team felt that they understood it. However, the process was completely open, and they could have asked questions at any time, whether if I or Jennifer could not have answered them, I would have been happy to set up, and we had several meetings. The department had several individual meetings as well as group meetings with the Arnold Group. And just for that point, I think about 10 days ago on a Friday, I'd sent all the information, for instance, the compensable factors on how everybody was graded. Some of the department heads has to see what those definitions were for knowledge or environmental work, and shared that out. But like I say, everything was open. My interpretation from staff, a lot of them are here, is that most everybody was understanding. I think there were some that were lacking. But
So we did give them adequate time to ask questions or concerns then, correct?
I feel yes, and I felt that there was enough time, and I'm a very open and honest person. I wasn't hiding anything that we could have shared any questions or information at that point. The only thing that we kind of kept the lid on a little bit was due to the process, which I've explained to each of the commissioners, that we didn't necessarily let the numbers of the individual, like dollar amounts per employee, out, because that was a moving target over those 6 months as we honed in on the pay grades, on the scale, the compensation policy. All those put the pay scale in flux. And if we were to send those out, I don't want to single anybody out, but if we were to told at the very beginning without any good direction of where the compensation study was going and how the pay scale was going, we could add an employee that was being proposed at just generic figures of $25 an hour, and they could have been shown a $7 increase, and by the time the final policy came out, maybe they came in at 21. And if you do that, somebody's going to start asking, well, why was it 2 months ago you said it was 25, now it's 21? And it creates that, I don't know, concern as to why there was a change without knowing the entire process of how you got from A to Z, and being a part of that. So that was really the only piece that got withheld, and the Wage and Benefits Committee has seen some of it. The department heads have all seen it now as of last week, all the final numbers. So that's kind of the final step. You can't produce that information until everything else falls into place as well.
Okay, thank you.
Michael, any? I mean, overall, first, thanks to the Wage and Benefits Committee, and thanks to HR and all those, and the Arnold Group for putting in all the work to put this in front of us. I've said it before, I think this is the most important decision we're going to make this year to secure the county going forward. And, it's going to be a big dollar amount. We budgeted for it. We're prepared for it. We said when we put this group together to do this study that we didn't want to do a study and not act on it. And I think this pay scale, for me anyway, really sets in place putting our county much more as people, our government should run like business. This kind of puts that in place where when we're hiring individuals with whatever experience, we know where they're going to be set, what the expectation is along their employment journey through the county, similar as if you worked at any other private business. They kind of have a salary set, and you have expectations on what to do and how to achieve a higher pay. So from that standpoint, I'm very encouraged by this. My questions for Darren are regarding just understanding, again, our budgeting process. So if this is approved, then starting for our 2025 budget, essentially we start the budget with an automatic pay. All employees go to that next pay scale, and that's where we start our budget, unless the commissions going forward decide we can't do a pay step, correct?
That's affirmative, and that should be known pretty much at the beginning of the process of every future year budget is how the economy is looking and what that next year looks like. And you also have, as the commission knows, about 4 to 5 months to go through that budget process. So if things do change, those can be done. One of the factors that changes within your when you do your budget process each year is in the years past, for at least as long as I've been with the county, the commission is approved with an initial budget by the department heads, and then the commission starts to put that together and figure, you have to start making those decisions. Do we want to allocate money, and then how much, and then when? What the new policy sets in place has been asked by HR and staff, and Wage and Benefits Committee, is to have that policy set in place for those pay steps to go at a certain time of the year. And what creates the ease for the commission then was when we start our budget process for the year. When you see your initial budgets, that number is already plugged in there, and there's no adjustments that have to be looked in the entire, because about 53% of the expenditures in the county are regarding salaries. So when you look at that overall, and you through the budget process, that's already in there on your initial budget, so those don't change on the next time you see the budget. It's already, so that makes that process easier.
Yeah, and that's the encouraging part from a budgeting standpoint going forward, is being able to establish what that wage is going to be for the county going forward. And I think it, again, should be encouraging to the employees to know where they're going to be, and it's helpful for commissions going forward, being able to have that number going into the budget instead of waiting for departments, each department kind of saying, well, this is where I think wages should be. That'll get established. Second part of that, though, is then COLA adjustments is the second thing that commissions can approve. So the wage step is one, which will be kind of automatic unless the commissions decide they can't do the step. But assuming the step goes through, then the commission then decides COLA adjustments each year and whether that can fit in the budget.
Correct, and so that would be the second piece. And so say, for instance, 2024 Social Security Administration's COLA was 3.2%. Obviously, we don't know what it is for 2025. You can get out there and do some research as to what it may expect it to be for next year. But the policy also puts in place that we have a place, so we're not determining what COLA we actually want to compare ourselves to or use for what the COLA adjustments would be. But it's a much simpler process that we, as through the budget, we identify what the Social Security Administration announces the COLA would be for the following year, and that number would then be placed into the budget stabilization account, just like we do now. However, that number is going to be a lot smaller because we're not looking at all the steps, because that process is completely done and in place by the beginning of the budget year. So say 3.2%, that would cost roughly about $321,000 for the county to make. It's a very easy figure based on what, by doing some calculations with our employees' salaries. And if the commission decides that $321,000 is acceptable, we can put that in, and then it can be implemented at the beginning of the year. But if it's a tighter year where the commission can only say, let's do half that at $160,000, then the commission can make that determination, and then we can implement it in maybe June or July instead of January. But that's all predetermined, and the employees will know well in advance instead of, for instance, today, if the commission approves this policy, these pay raises would go in effect 2 days ago on Sunday for this payroll period. So they would know those numbers by looking at the pay scale and knowing what the COLA is before the year even starts.
So if we give a COLA, so then the pay scale, the matrix, I'm just looking at, I'll just job 10A, the very upper left corner there is at 1650. So if we gave them if we approved a 3.2% COLA next year, that pay scale would then start at $17.03 going forward, right? It wouldn't stay at 1650. Each COLA adjustment that a commission gives, the whole pay scale.
Every grade, no
Starts
matter the
there.
multiplier, and every step would change by that COLA adjustment. I'd have to look back. I don't know if, I'm assuming the math would be pretty close, but our policy is based on grades and their midpoints.
Okay.
And then you find your midpoint, and then by policy, it's plus or minus 15 or 18%. So the midpoints, I believe, would be adjusted on each pay grade by that 3.2% COLA, and then that would then impact all of the steps within that grade
So
itself.
the midpoint goes up by 3.2, and then it goes 30%.
That's correct.
Extras.
It's still probably within a few pennies of the dollar that you would I don't know if that would calculate out. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear for what the process would be.
It's really, again, I think we're 95% there. We got, I don't know, 300, how many employees do we have total?
209, I believe, between full and
200 and some
part-time.
employees, and with the input, this is bound to have a few that aren't fully satisfied with it, but again, I think we're 95% there to a point that we implement this, get the pay scale set up for all employees. It gets established this year. Every employee is going to see some sort of increase, and then we're going to start our budget cycle here, and assuming that pretty much everything is also going to go into effect starting January 1 as far as another pay jump, scale jump, and potential COLA. So, it's kind of like making a pizza at some point. If you add too many toppings and everybody, then nobody's happy. So I think we're at a point where we're right there.
I think that is a good point. And we've tried to be transparent about that all the way at the start of this process. Is the wage study, it's different than everything we've done in the past in regards to moving everybody from a step and or a COLA. And there are some that are benefiting more than others because of the placement of where they need to be and the modifiers and the positions. But as I had stated before, we tried to be fair and equal and not look at individual people, how well they do or don't do their job. We tried to create the same fair and equitable process across the line to ensure that where everybody was placed is appropriate.
Okay. Will this hinder any of our succession planning that we've been working on throughout the county, throughout the departments?
I know that was one of your questions when we visited yesterday. That's an interesting question because I don't know I can give you a straight yes or no answer because it impacts everybody differently. So if you were to look at a department head or elected officials that is the top paying in their position, sometimes when those elected officials are in those positions, the people that are promoted or have risen up within that department may or may not have more years of experience with that elected official or the department head. And when they are promoted or as they've been here for longer, they are entitled to that pay. Whereas as an elected official, some elected officials can be brought in and at a lower pay than who they may choose or promote up to their assistant director just because they may be with the department. Or if the commission were to hire somebody outside, or if an elected official, when Bobby decides to retire, they would come down. But if they were to promote somebody within the office that's been here for 20 years, there would be that difference in pay. That's just a situation that can happen. I don't know if you could ever prevent that without exponentially increasing salaries for positions to ensure that no matter how much somebody paid in the number 2 position would never match the minimum amount for the person that would be above them. And would it be unfair or would it be right to do that? It's not that it's wrong, but that would cost a lot of money, and those salaries for the executive team and the elected officials would just, it would be $20 to $30 an hour probably increase for each position as a starting point. So I don't think you could ever fix that without, like I say, completely, I'm going to say overpaying, because I feel that's what it would be doing to start that department head or elected official at a position any higher than, at the minimum, than any maximum position of any position under that. Because they could have been here for 30, 40 years for somebody underneath them and could be maxed out on their pay scale.
Got it.
I don't know if that really was what you're looking for, but there's so many different scenarios on how.
Well, it's just a matter of, we've worked very hard at the department levels to make sure that we're trying to build in a succession plan for the future to bring up the next generation of leaders throughout the departments. And I guess I don't want to see us disincentivize that. We're kind of more or less, we've blown up the old system. We're throwing the old system out to input this whole new system. and I don't want to lose something along those lines that we've been working towards and make a step backwards in some regards.
So some of your examples, I think, would be like we created the truck driver 1 and truck driver 2, so you have some career progression. Same with HEO 1 and 2, detention officer 1 and 2, buildings and techs 1 and 2. We actually created more of some of those levels within the departments for that succession planning. So when people are here longer, meet the experience required, or get the certifications that they need, they can progress into that higher position and get paid more for that. And I think that for one department, we had that discussion is those like example for some certifications, that might be something that we look at changing some job descriptions into the future for that career progression to possibly maybe require or ask if the employees would be interested in adding some of those certifications. So that way, it's not only a better value to the county because it shows that they had those certifications and the knowledge and the experience, but if we would then upchange the job descriptions based on this, that would help reevaluate those job descriptions and maybe place them at a different pay scale grade to help with that as well. So I think this helps fix it. Another example that I explained to you last night is we had some competing different between our old pay study, which is no longer in effect because now we have the new compensation policy, and then our personnel manual. We had some conflicts in there in regards to how somebody may work paid in a higher class compared to if they were to actually take that position and get promoted. If they do it as a temporary basis, they're to get paid more, but then if they were to accept the job, they would get paid potentially less. Now that's up to the commission to decide that, but our new policy, the compensation policy has updated, so that way there are no conflicts, so that way when we do promote somebody up with succession planning as somebody moves up, that they do get the full benefit of their promotion in regards to their pay adjustments.
Okay.
We have Arnold Group for the remainder of the year, correct?
Correct.
What kind of work can they do or is left to be done?
At this point, it's just, I think, and Jennifer can probably maybe agree, but I think the biggest point is we have a huge spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet that monitors all this. So when we bring new employees in or new employees get promoted or when we make the adjustments for next year, we just need to sit with them and then get essentially trained on how to use the spreadsheet effectively and then be able to transport that information into our budget spreadsheets to plan for next year. But then if we have any questions along the way or any support that may be needed, they're there to help assist us with questions as well.
How will job descriptions be, I guess, updated or maintained and updated going forward? Because again, we put all this work in to get them updated to where they are because they're outdated, but jobs change, careers change. We may add positions that aren't really included here. So how is the county going to manage the changes of jobs and what's required of employees going forward so that way they're, incorporated?
I think one of the biggest changes that has been in the past is some of those job descriptions were 10, 15 years old, basically done at the prior wage study done in 2013 and 2014, and maybe a little bit, we've updated some since then, but I don't think there was a big emphasis on doing work like this because the county didn't have an HR department essentially that could help focus attention on updated job descriptions and working with department heads to get those done. But with Jennifer in her position with HR, she's worked very well with the department heads, and I think the common goal is to reevaluate them every year. But just because we review them every year, like you say, there could be some changes as part of this process that we'll look at into the future. And whenever those are changed or need to be changed, they'd be brought back for the commission to review and approve. But hopefully they're reviewed and the department heads update them or let us know when they need to be updated through HR and we can get them updated, but at least have an annual review or a discussion point to make sure that if there are any, to let us know so we can get them updated.
Okay.
Jennifer, would you have any comments that you'd like to put in on this? You've done a lot of heavy lifting, you and Carissa, I know both have, so.
Jennifer Taylor, Ellis County HR, and I just wanted to reiterate what Darren said with the job descriptions. In the last couple years, when we updated the personnel policy, we changed the way we do performance reviews. And so anybody that's new in a position, whether that be a new hire with the county or promotion, transfer, whatever it may be, they're under a 6-month introductory period, and at the end of their 6 months, they receive a performance evaluation. All other county staff, it is an annual performance evaluation in the first 3 months of the calendar year. And so my recommendation is either prior to or after those performance evaluation time period, review those job descriptions thoroughly and review all of them, because that is what your performance evaluation is primarily based on. So.
Okay, so you have a plan to help implement this and take it forward.
Yes, and part of the Arnold Group, their support for the next year is if we would have any extreme job changes or added job descriptions, they would work through that with us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I just want to add a little bit to Commissioner Burgess, and he's been city commissioner too, and I've been this is my 4th year in. You said a mouthful, you're not going to please everybody. As we all know that as commissioners right now, clerk, whoever it may be. But that's why we had the study done, and I do agree it's fair.
The suggested compensation changes we had planned for as a commission it's $909,000, which is or $950,000 has been set aside. We had accounted for that in multiple different departments and on multiple different layers going forward into this. That is not going to be the change that we see as a county every year after year. Is that correct?
Correct, unless inflation continues and we have a 9.9% COLA adjustment. I mean, I don't want to say never, but I would hope that we get back to normalcy and inflation lowers, COLA comes back and rebounds to the averages, and you could be looking at a 3 to 4% adjustment every year.
Okay.
Or you do another wage study, and so we could be in the same position where we're at 10 years from now as we are today. Economic times could be hard, or the commission could decide not to give raises, not to make the steps, not to make the COLAs. And when you do that, it compounds each year after that on making it worse. And if your scale gets behind the market, or if the market dictates some changes and we don't make those changes, yes, we could be in this situation again, but that's year-to-year basis that the commission has to determine as part of the budget process.
Gotcha. And as far as going back to succession planning, we can have changes in departments with different department heads and different elected officials, which would change the entire scope of the succession planning.
Correct, yeah. The succession plan of one department or one department head or elected official can change with an election or with a promotion or retirement of another. One person's plan isn't always the next, and I mean, that's just part of it. But I think with the commissioner's support to continue to allow the departments to plan for succession planning, plan for those next positions, those changes, the retirements, et cetera, I think that's the biggest piece, that the commission supports it, allows it to happen, and it just helps the county commission prepare the departments for the future and not necessarily just what's in the next couple months.
And just to clarify again, that this whole study has every department with currently the county commission seats out of it.
Correct. The 3 commissioners and myself, we've had that discussion. No adjustments will be made to my salary or the 3 commissioners.
Okay. Any further discussion at this time, gentlemen?
No, like you said, Chair, that 909, 410 could change. That would be, like what Commissioner Burgess said, that if we add a job, then that number, but at least we get to view that and, discuss it, so.
And I know we've accounted for it
Mhm.
throughout the budgeting process to essentially make sure that we're prepared for this.
And,
I don't think you're ever prepared,
right,
but
right.
any further comments?
No. Well, I'm going to move to approve the attached job descriptions, pay scale, budget adjustments, COLA adjustments, and Resolution 24-07 for elected official salaries effective March 31st, 2024.
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. For a vote, is there any other discussion before we move to approve this? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you for your understanding and support for our employees and our staff. They're our biggest asset, and I think this will be, like I say, impacts everybody a little differently, but I think it'll be good for the county moving forward as a overall.
Okay. Well, and I want to say thank you to everybody who's had input on it and worked with it and worked through it. The Wage and Benefit Committee, thank you for the work you've done in helping guide some of this and push some of this. So,
Yeah, and the Arnold Group, I myself hate to say the I word, but they did a good job when we met with them, explaining it all.
okay. Next, we'll have the 2025 budget calendar.
Just to continue with the discussion of numbers, it is April 2nd already, and we are already looking into 2025 with the budget process. So each year, we kind of start that with an overlook of where we came from the previous year. And so I'm going to not read this word for word, but give you some quick highlights. I think a lot of these are important throughout the entire county, but our revenues for the entire county were just over 11% over than what was projected, which is excellent. You always want your revenues more than what you expect them to be and never less than what they are expected to be. A large portion of that is the interest gained by the county treasurer, Vern Reuter, which I'll talk about here in a few minutes. The next piece is, if your revenues are good, you always want your expenditures less than what is projected, which is happened once again. The county, as a general, minus the fact that we're starting our audit process, so these final numbers will vary minimally. But we did come in $1.5 million under budget, which is just over 5%. So that is great. That 1.5 million does include all the transfers that the commission approved for the year end, to include the capital improvement, the capital equipment, as well as other funds that were transferred at the 50% level of remaining budget authority for each department. The Capital Improvement Fund, which is what we refer to usually as Fund 6, had $3.6 million. That is larger than for probably decades, to be honest with you, but the main point of that largest transfer was to finalize the final cash payment transfer for the funding of the Public Works building, to pay for that in cash and not have to borrow or bond out any money. Fund 16, which is what we refer to as equipment, so graders, trucks, mowers, vehicles throughout the county, some of the vehicles in the county, had $1.4 million transferred in, which is an increase of just about $750,000 from the year before. And Fund 78, which is our road and bridge fund, which puts money away for capital improvement projects, which the commission has approved a improvement plan for bridges, which is the biggest portion of this. It had just under $500,000 transfer. That is down from the years before, mainly because the year before we had the additional $2.8 million, I believe, that was transferred to capital because of the grant funding, the additional grant funding we got for the Northwest Business Corridor. As I stated a little bit ago, Vern Reuter, the county treasurer, I know this seems a little high, 634% over the budget amount for 2023 and the amount of investments. What that equates to is we had budgeted at that time, and now you remember 2023 is budgeted in 2022. The budgeted, or the interest rates at that time were pretty much, I don't know, Vern's, yeah, basically nothing. So
Yeah.
we didn't have budgeted a lot. However, with Vern's aggressive tactics and keeping an eye on the market and where he invests and how often he invests, it went from $250,000 to almost $1.6 million, and that is a big contributing factor as to why we were over our estimated revenues for the county. As for this year already, we're only a quarter of the way through the year, budget-wise, and the Treasury's already collected 62% of the amount of investments that were budgeted for this year. So in other words, we had budgeted $1.1 million, and we're already at just under $700,000. And I know Vern has a number and a goal for this year, and it is above that 1.1, so we should be ahead as well for the budget year 2024. So good news there. And I believe he's got some estimates for what next year looks like as well, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to capture more of those revenues in our budget process to help offset the property taxes that would come from increased amounts of interest. Sales tax collections for 2022 should be 2023 on the agenda item was 3.2 million. I'm sorry, that was 3.2 million for 2022 as of last year. That increased from 3.2 to almost 3.35 million, so we saw an increase in our total amount collected for both of the 2 quarter-cent sales tax, one for the general and one for the healthcare tax. Continue to budget conservatively on our revenues, so that way we're not shortfalling us if something were to happen. And all of that extra money, if we have budgeted 3.3 million, but we only have budgeted 3.1, for an example, to be transferred, that sales tax money stays in a separate fund for full transparency to the public, and that as long as we don't use as much as actually comes in, and we stay under, that money stays in that sales tax fund for full transparency, but also for future budget years, as that year is the sales tax is to expire come 2030, or in the years in the future. We could identify a need of where we could spend that if we needed to. But in regards to what that is for an impact to our community, that 3.35 million in relation to the current mill levy set, that offsets 6.5 mills of local property tax that we do not have to collect for ad valorem because of the sales tax that is collected. And I don't remember the exact numbers from when we started the sales tax presentations in 2019 and 2020, but a majority of that money is collected from those not living in Ellis County. So we collect that sales tax from people visiting and traveling through our community, which helps offset and reduce our mill levy rate. And Commissioner Burgess might remember the number. We sat with the Property Evaluation Division, and the effective tax rates for the state of Kansas, Ellis County, when looking at property tax, sales tax, income tax, everything in a combined fashion, I believe Ellis County was the 4th best in the state, 7th best in the state.
7th this year. We were 4th, now 7th.
We changed from 4th. We dropped to 7th, but
5,
because of the school bond, you had an increase in the school bond, so that had an impact. So we're doing very well in compared to other counties. And the last piece to this puzzle is our employee health fund for the benefits. We had started that several years ago during COVID. That has essentially leveled off and has been maintaining right at about 1.1 million, 1,050,000. And throughout the last couple of years, there's been some significant increases, but also last year we saw a decrease in insurance fees charged to the county. So we've been able to offset those for our employees, so that way that doesn't have an impact in the pocket of our employees' paychecks for continued increase for health insurance, and we can continue to use that if we need to, that's discussed with the Wage and Benefits Committee to help to have a less of a budget impact on our employees' checks each year. I could continue to talk through that. I know that's a lot of numbers, but I think in a general sense, that's all essentially good news for the county as we start the budget process for working through the 2025 budget. So attached to the agenda item is our calendar that is proposed. Nothing has really changed. It's just the dates on how they fall out. April 2nd might have been April 3rd last year, et cetera, falling in with commission meetings and executive team meetings. But I guess with this, I would like to have the budget calendar approved by the commission. And with some of our discussions that we've had individually as well as last week at the retreat, the next step, I guess next week, is for the commission to possibly give us staff direction as to what some of the goals and changes or what you may or may not want to see within the budget process for this year, so that way they can start adapting that, how it impacts their individual departments, and we will start working on our budgets by the end of the month.
Any comments?
The only comment on the, pulling here, talked a little last night when we were talking. When we do our, I guess, the special meeting to review budgets, you know, what, I guess, the preference of the commission. For me, I don't mind the long day and just sitting there and knocking it out. I was told Darren on that, I know last year it went from 10 to, I think we stayed there till 7 o'clock or so. But for me, doing it in one day, I just know my focus that day is on the budget, and I don't really like the idea of trying to split it over maybe 2 days. I'm not closed to that idea if the other commissioners want to split it up a little bit, but for me, I'd prefer just to have one day where the department heads come in, propose their budget, and I just stay focused on the budget that day. So, but
I would
certainly.
I have no problem with that.
I agree with
I
that.
know Bobby had to sit there the whole day too. But so the way it is proposed for a 1-day review, I would prefer that. So that was my only
Okay.
question and discussion on the calendar itself.
I have no problem with that. I like sitting down with each department.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I guess if the commission is good with the calendar, we'll proceed with that and we'll start planning accordingly.
So, okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
if I could call Brandon up for an update, please.
that's fine.
Yes, sir.
Morning.
Morning.
I just would like to have an update on Ellis Avenue and any other just projects. That way whoever's listening can
Yep.
know what's going on, so how everything is going. And this is another example of like the job study that we done. We didn't impress everybody down there on them miles, but
So we have most of the material hauled in. We're hauling the last bits of sand in to the Ellis yard for preparation of mixing starting April 15th
Okay.
for our asphalt season, getting the mix made then. They're finishing up on Saline River Road over by Codale, just west of there. There's those 2 large ponds that there's not much runoff, and the slopes of the sidewalls of the road are quite up there and some trees growth on them. They've been widening those out, making it safer. And we started Ellis Avenue yesterday. Laid the rock on the first mile, and the mill started at 10:04 yesterday. Starting to go through it. A lot of water.
I'll bet.
So,
Okay.
yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. County Administrator report.
I just want to give the commission a quick update. I'm not sure if we'll have it on next week's agenda or the week after, but we had the results of the scholarships submittals. We did have eight applications for the 15 scholarships that were available, and thank you to Vern Reuter and Jennifer for assisting in the grading. We've essentially graded those and ranked them out so that way the top scholarship awardees can be presented to the commission. And yesterday I met with Fort Hays staff, Dr. King. Between today and tomorrow, they'll be visiting with Hays Academy of Hair Designs and NCK to find high school seniors in the four high schools in Ellis County that we divided up across. They're going to find students that are applying to NCK, Hays Academy, and Fort Hays to award them those extra 7 scholarships that were short. And hopefully by this week, potentially, they could get it to me, and it could be on next week's agenda for the commission to see. But I'll call you or email you as we get that. So that might be some good news for next week for some local Ellis County High School seniors. That's all I got.
And that expansion was out. So the 8 are what we kind of established as Ellis County employee sons and daughters, but we've expanded that out to essentially
Anybody that
in the
was
county.
correct. And the staff at Fort Hays is working to identify students that necessarily aren't getting tens of thousands of dollars in scholarship, but those that may not have gotten as much. That way, it still assists those individuals to encourage them to go to school because they are getting some financial help to attend.
Good.
Commissioner reports? Mr. Burgess?
Again, on the pay study, thanks to everybody that put in all the effort, and I think it's an incredible thing for our county. I know when it kind of hits Hays Post, and it's going to be a big number, and there's going to be comments about, no, the county's, I wish I could work a county. They're just giving pay raises. Well, first of all, we are hiring, so go ahead. But speaking for the public, I really do think we're very cognizant of what the taxpayers are doing, and we want county employees that are compensated well, that feel this is a quality job, so that way they can provide the quality goods and services to the county. And when we're at different meetings, it's just like we hear that across the. If you want good services, you need good employees, and you should take that to heart. I think our commission has on behalf of the public. So I'm thanking you all again on behalf of the public for doing the quality work that I think Ellis County does. As far as other things, I attended Ellis City Library Board last evening and their city commission meetings last evening. We had our retreat this week, or last week, I guess. I very much appreciate all the department heads and elected officials coming to that. I enjoy it thoroughly, being able to have a day long where we can express different ideas of what we'd like to see the county going forward. So I very much enjoyed that time. And then I want to recognize Aaron Cunningham, the Assistant County Attorney. I believe he's been recognized for his quality work on some high-profile cases in the last year. I'm not really sure what that award was. I couldn't find the name of the award, but I do believe he's been recognized for his work, and once again proving that Ellis County, we continuously have employees that do quality work that are recognized locally and throughout the state, and again appreciate all that work done. Thank you.
Mr. Younger?
Okay, I did attend one of the Hays City workshops. Then I also did go to the child care and plus the retreat. Again, I'm going to hit on Commissioner Burgess. We do have a lot of good employees at the county. Yeah, the people are going to talk about the numbers, but I don't want to be a training center, and I've watched it over the years, us train and then they leave. So I would like to retain our people that we have. Also, with Bobby's election, I did see all the people that volunteered. Yes, we did pay them, but that also takes time out of their regular deal, and I appreciate all that. Then also the VCC got out of here, but look what they've done to that building in the last few years with all the volunteers they've had. So it is important to get out and volunteer if you can. I'm going to use Knights of Columbus as an example. During the Lenten season, all the fish fries that they had and all the people that I went to several of them, all the support that they've had, which Knights of Columbus does a lot of things throughout the whole world in our community also. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for all their hard work on the wage study and all the support that they've seen, and I know that's going to be a long process implementing it. Also, I'd like to appreciate everybody who attended the staff meeting and retreat, elected officials retreat. It was nice to talk candidly on a different number of matters. And then furthermore, on our previous commission meeting, I would like to make an apology for some of the comments that I made that may have been taken wrong across the county. So I would like to make that apology that I said things probably out of emotions that I had that I should have taken out and discussed outside. So I believe we've got those things resolved. With that, that's all I have for a report, and we will move towards our executive session.
Okay.
I appreciate you saying that, standing up.
Yeah. So, Commissioner Chair, I move the Board of County Commissioners recess to executive session for 15 minutes under the following exceptions of the Kansas Open Meetings Act pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception. The subject to be discussed during the executive session is contract negotiations. Open session will resume at, that's an odd number, 10:10 in the Commission chambers. Those in attendance, in addition to the Board of County Commissioners, are Bill Jeter, Darren Myers, and the Board of Commissioners.
Have a
And
motion?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, no decisions had been reached, so could we have another session, or is that it?
That's it.
Okay. We will adjourn the meeting at 10:12.